December 2008. Wall Street is already in crisis when something even more disturbing begins happening behind closed doors. Bernie Madoff is receiving withdrawal requests from investors who want their money back. Millions. Then tens of millions. The requests keep coming. But there is a problem. The money isn't there. For years, Madoff's clients had opened their statements and watched their investments grow. The numbers looked legitimate. The returns looked believable. And the man behind them was one of the most respected names in finance. Now, investigators are beginning to discover that some of those impressive investment records may have been nothing more than carefully constructed fiction. How could one man convince thousands of investors that their money was working for them when it wasn't? And how did the illusion survive for so many years? To understand that, we have to go back to when Bernie Madoff wasn't viewed as a criminal. He was viewed as someone you could trust. Long before the scandal, Bernie Madoff had built an impressive reputation on Wall Street. He wasn't presenting himself as some mysterious outsider promising overnight riches. He was a respected financial professional. He had spent decades building relationships throughout the financial world, and that reputation became one of his greatest assets. His investment operation appeared exclusive, professional, sophisticated. Clients received detailed account statements showing their money growing steadily. And strangely enough, the returns weren't so spectacular that they immediately looked impossible. They were consistent. That consistency made them feel safe. When markets were unpredictable, Madoff's clients appeared to be doing remarkably well. To many investors, that wasn't a warning. It was proof that Madoff knew what he was doing. And then something even more powerful happened. People began recommending him to other people. A wealthy investor tells a friend. A friend introduces a business partner. A business partner recommends him to family members. The network grows. Soon, getting access to Madoff's investment operation becomes almost a status symbol. Not everyone could invest. And that exclusivity made the opportunity even more attractive. People naturally want what they believe they can't have. The more difficult it became to get in, the more valuable the opportunity appeared. But underneath the polished image was a completely different reality. The basic idea behind a Ponzi scheme is surprisingly simple. New investors put money into the operation. Instead of generating legitimate investment returns, the operator uses incoming money to pay earlier investors who want to withdraw. As long as enough new money continues arriving, the system can appear successful. And that's exactly what made Madoff's operation so difficult to see from the outside. Investors weren't necessarily seeing obvious losses. They were seeing statements showing profits. They were seeing account balances increasing. And when someone requested money, payments could be made using money that had come from somewhere else. The illusion continued. But every Ponzi scheme has the same fundamental weakness. It needs new money, constantly. Eventually, the numbers have to catch up with the story. And there were warning signs. One of them was the remarkable consistency of Madoff's reported returns. Real markets move. They rise. They fall. Even experienced investors have bad months. But Madoff's reported results often appeared remarkably smooth. That should have raised questions, and some people did ask questions. Financial professionals expressed concerns about how the returns were supposedly being generated. Others questioned the trading strategy. Some analysts found the reported results difficult to reconcile with actual market conditions. But Madoff had something more powerful than an explanation. He had a reputation. When someone has been successful for years, people tend to interpret suspicious details differently. A strange number becomes an innocent mistake. A complicated explanation becomes evidence of sophistication. A question from a skeptic becomes unnecessary negativity. And when thousands of people appear satisfied, doubt becomes even harder. Think about it. If your friend tells you an investment is legitimate, that's one thing. But what if your friend, your business partner, your financial advisor, and several wealthy people you respect all seem to believe the same thing? You might stop asking questions because you assume somebody else already did the checking. And that was part of the trap. People weren't only trusting Bernie Madoff, they were trusting everyone who appeared to trust Bernie Madoff. For years, the system continued. Money came in. Statements went out. Investors saw profits. The reputation grew. But the entire structure depended on one thing: confidence. As long as people believed their money was safe, they had little reason to demand it all back at once. Then came 2008. The global financial crisis sent markets crashing. Investors became nervous. People who had never considered withdrawing suddenly wanted cash. And this was a nightmare scenario for a Ponzi scheme. Because the system works when money keeps coming in. It begins to fail when everyone wants their money out. At first, Madoff could still make payments, but the requests continued. More investors wanted withdrawals, then more. The gap between the money investors believed they had and the money that actually existed became impossible to ignore. The machine was running out of fuel. And then, the illusion finally began to collapse. In December 2008, the truth began coming to light. Madoff's sons learned that something was seriously wrong. The family had been presented with a horrifying reality. The investment operation was not what clients believed it was. Authorities were contacted. Investigators began examining the records, and what they found was devastating. The impressive investment activity shown on client statements was largely fictitious. The trades that appeared on paper hadn't happened in the way investors were led to believe. The profits weren't being generated by some secret investment strategy. The entire operation had been built around deception. New investor money helped support payments to earlier investors. And the longer the system continued, the larger the illusion became. Then came another shocking realization. The famous $65 billion figure associated with the Madoff scandal was not simply $65 billion in cash that Madoff personally stole. It represented the enormous value shown on fictitious client statements. The actual losses were far different, but the scale of the deception was still enormous. Thousands of investors were affected. Individuals lost savings. Families lost financial security. Charities faced devastating consequences. Businesses and institutions discovered that money they believed was invested might never have existed in the form they had been shown. And perhaps the most disturbing part was how quickly the image of success disappeared once people started demanding proof. The same reputation that had taken decades to build could not survive once the underlying records were examined. The empire collapsed. Not because the world suddenly became smarter, but because the flow of new money could no longer keep the illusion alive. Looking back, some of the warning signs seem obvious. The unusually consistent returns, the lack of transparency, the difficulty of independently verifying the investment strategy, the complicated explanations, the exclusive network, the enormous reputation. But hindsight changes everything. When you're inside the story, the warning signs don't always feel like warning signs. A professional statement feels reassuring. A respected name feels reassuring. A wealthy client list feels reassuring. And if everyone around you appears convinced, questioning the situation can feel almost unreasonable. That's one of the most dangerous parts of financial fraud. The scam doesn't always have to defeat every person individually. Sometimes, it only needs to create enough trust that people stop questioning the evidence. The Bernie Madoff story isn't just about one man. It's about human psychology. It's about what happens when trust becomes stronger than verification. A respected reputation doesn't guarantee honesty. A professional-looking investment statement doesn't prove the underlying assets exist. A famous financial institution doesn't automatically make every investment legitimate. And thousands of investors believing something doesn't mean someone has independently verified it. So what should an investor ask? Where is the money actually invested? Can the transactions be independently verified? How are the returns being generated? Who controls the assets? And what happens if everyone wants their money back at the same time? These questions aren't signs of distrust. They're signs of caution. Because the safest investor isn't necessarily the person who can predict every scam. It's the person who knows when to slow down, when to investigate, and when to walk away. Bernie Madoff didn't build his empire by convincing people that he was a criminal. He built it by convincing people that he was someone they could trust. And that's what makes this story so unsettling. Because the next financial scam may not arrive looking suspicious. It may arrive with a professional website, a respected name, a convincing success story, and thousands of people already saying, "It's safe, everyone is doing it." So here's the question. If thousands of experienced investors could be fooled, what warning signs would you notice before it was too late?